Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Lex the Gray here. I wanted to give you an update on my one-page RPG I've been working on for months. It's been taking a while because, well, I keep changing my mind on things. Now, it's called RPG Lite. It is very rules light. It's a one-page RPG. It's heavily inspired by Maze Rats and World of Dungeons. Proper credits are right here in the corner. However, the difference with this one compared to my last renditions is that this one is compatible with the Maze Rat character sheet because I've decided to playtest this in my Shadows of Darkane campaign moving forward. So the next episode I either film tonight or tomorrow will have these rules with the original Maze Rats character sheets. And I've already configured my character sheets with this. So let's go through my rules here. And please note this is an alpha, so there will be spelling errors. This might change, the layout might be adjusted, different font, etc. But playtesting it will really help out as I want to see this in action, not just on my computer screen. So, to start is the character creation process. You name your character, you start at level 1, you have 3 ability modifiers, strength, dexterity, willpower, like Maze Rats. You roll a 1d6 per ability, 1 through 3 is a 0, 4 through 5 is plus 1, 6 is a plus 2. Attack die is your equipped weapon die. The armor die, arm, is the equipped armor die. So remember those keywords, attack and arm. Health is d6 plus extra d6 is equal to your strength. Minimum is 4. Still debating that. Notes decide on your character's background, focus, race, age, and appearance. Starting inventory, you start with a blade, d4, leather, chest plate, d4, 3 days of rations, 50-foot rope, torch, and 3d6 coins. Your spell list, if your will is 1 plus, add spells to your spellcasting list equal to your will modifier. You can know up to 4 spells. And I've already caught a little issue with my formatting there, but that's okay. That's an easy fix on my screen. Next is the dice mechanic, or I should say dice mechanics. Roll 2d6 plus ability modifier for risky actions. You have the degrees of success, DOS. Now this is practically similar to the World of Dungeons dice mechanic, which they call rolling the dice. It's by far my favorite mechanic for action checks of any sort. 6 or less is a miss, bad outcome. 7 through 9 is a partial success with a setback. 10 or more is a full success. 12 or more is a critical success with benefit, plus benefit. Advantage, your background or focus gives you an advantage. Roll 3d6 plus ability modifier to choose the highest 2 results, which I've been doing already in my previous episodes. Combat is handled narratively. Now, this section is the toughest for me. When it comes to writing rules, which I don't do for a profession, combat's always the toughest part for me. I don't know why. It's just something I either debate whether to follow D&D style, where you roll for initiative and you go by turn, or you do it narratively with that concept in mind. So it's kind of a blend of the two. I'll show you guys. Combat is handled narratively. Use the DOS to determine the outcome of your actions during combat. First strike, 2d6 plus dexterity against DOS, 3d6 plus dexterity with advantage of ambushing. Dealing damage, 2d6 plus strength against DOS. If successful, roll attack to deal damage. Weapons may have additional modifiers plus or specialties. Taking damage, 2d6 plus dexterity against DOS. If successful, roll arm to negotiate. Look. Hey, can you please take a little less on the attack? I really appreciate it. Thanks. Roll arm to negate incoming damage. So already this system is very unforgiving. I believe you can either die quickly or get hurt significantly within the first few encounters. That's why I'm still debating the health concept. If I should have more health or keep it as is. Again, we'll play test it, and I'll show you what I have my character sheets off screen here for Shadows of Arcane. You can use an item during combat. You may use an item from your inventory. Pretty simple. Maybe that's not even necessary to have in there, but spell casting, choose a spell to cast and roll 2d6 plus will against DOS. The spell can only be used once a day. Spells can be replaced with another. You can know up to 4 spells. Now, I might put it in here, but spells are not temporary. You can know a spell as long as you want and replace it with another spell. Unlike, I think Maze Rats, they're temporary. That way you can kind of pick and choose what you want to keep if it's good, or if you don't like it, you can lose it. So let's say, let me add to this here. Spells are not temporary. Okay, there we go. Healing. A short rest heals D4. Long rest is a full heal. Inflicted conditions cause -1 damage daily until healed. You can hold up to 10 items plus strength for your inventory count. There is a leveling up system, which is always key for my gameplay. Once you complete a monumental task, you gain a level with one of the following perks. +1 to any ability modifier, max is 3. If strength, also increase inventory. Now, why is the max 3? You might be asking because, hey, what if this wants to be a long campaign? How do you get your character stronger? You could perhaps change that by increasing, these ranges are going to a threshold system, like a set number difficulty, and you can probably, do 3d6. But for me, it's because the minimum you can roll for a action is 2. And if you're at 3, then you're at 5. So it's still a fail. You're still prone to fail, but you have a greater chance of succeeding. That's why I limit it to 3. You can also reroll your health with the amount of d6s equal to your new level. If equal or less than current health plus 1 health. I might be more specific on this one when it comes to max or cap health, but I think for now this is just in my own wheelhouse. So then the last one is +1 spell slot, max is 4. So as you might have noticed, everything is customized, everything is suited, compatible for the Maze Rats character sheet. And like I said, I believe I mentioned it, I will be using these moving forward for my Cast Shadows or Darkane campaign because I did the rules to this character sheet. Don't know why, I just really like this character sheets. Let's go over the characters and what changes I made so that you guys are ready for my first video, or for my next campaign video, because I will not be doing this again. Clovis is now has a attack die, or actually let's do Ellis. He's the leader as usual. Ellis has a D8 for his attack die, and his armor die is a D6. Everything else is the same because this kind of does fit. These ability modifiers do fit per the level because it really depends on the starting roll when you first create the character. I took away some of the armors. Armor is now simplified to just D6 armor. We'll see how that works out. Items are all the same. I added race and age, kept the background, and the focus essentially is fighter, so that didn't have to change. For red, his attack is D6 based on his spear. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, Ellis has a D8 longsword, D4 mace. Red has a D4 armor with a spear D6, slingshot D4 for long range, and 2D4 for daggers. And then he's a human 28 years old and has the smuggler background with a focus as a rogue. Then there is the Clovis, who is currently MIA in the campaign. So, but I still updated him. I will have to create 2 new spells, which I almost forgot, because he has 2 willpower modifiers. He's a D6 attack based on long spear, 2 D4 armor based on D4 armor. Health hasn't changed, all the same items from before. Human, 42 years old. I figured he was the oldest in the group. Focus is wizard, cultist background. And then there's Jules, D6 attack based on a longbow, D4 armor. You know what? I'd rather put in the D4, or yeah, I think D4 is suitable for hunting knights. So I am kind of making up these weapons as we go. His background is explorer and ranger focus. I didn't really have to change anything except for these 2 and the weapons and armor. Everything else is practically the same. Currency is the same. That's why I made these rules. I wanted these rules to be attuned for my game, so it's an easy transition. Because I was trying to transition for Knave 2E, and it was kind of a pain. All the dungeons was even more of a pain. I did play it with one episode, but I decided to just, hey, I'm just going to use my own system because this has been shelved for so long. It was actually half complete. Parts of it was missing, and there was issues. But the past few days, I just kind of expanded and far from perfect. But I feel like this is a good foundation, or at least a good alpha for me to test during gameplay. So Speaking of testing, let's do just a few test runs, nothing serious, but I wanted to see mainly how each section works. So we have my trusty green dice tray here, and let's say that we want to do a check, an action. I keep saying check, I have to say it's action for, let's do Ellis. Or I'm sorry, let's try red. Let's do our rogue. So red wants to pick a lock, and he's a rogue, so that would be an advantage. So we would do 3d6, and we will follow the chart. Ability modifier, I believe this will be willpower related. So pick the two highest of the rolls, and his ability modifier is two or one for will. 5, 6, 7. He's barely successful, but maybe he breaks the lock. It makes a noise. He drops the lock pick. Something happens. It's a complication based on the rules. Again, similar to World of Dungeons. Now let's say Ellis wants to climb a wall or scale a cliff. Now he's a fighter. He is athletic, but I'm not going to consider that. So that'll be probably strength related to climb, or let's say he wants to lift a huge object. We'll keep it simple. That's strength. So we'll just roll for it, and that is a total fail. It's 1-1 even plus the 2, that'll be 4. That's still a fail. So if he were to succeed, like this one, for example, 8, then plus 2 strength, that's 10. That is a standard success with no benefit. 12 or more, he scales the cliff and he finds something. He finds a lost item, maybe hanging off a branch off the side of the cliff. He grabs it, something like that. Just narratively, there's a benefit. So that is checks. Then for combat, again, it's always the questionable parts for me. But the first strike, let's say that Red is fighting a bandit by himself. There's no aid from the team whatsoever. Let's squeeze this in just a bit here. So let's say the first strike, the bandit is going to be a a D6 bandit, okay, and then maybe he has a health of 6 also, so we'll keep him right there. His health is we'll follow it with this die. I really don't have parts of my sheet to rule on how to create enemies or level them. So I might do that on the backup page, but I haven't got to that part yet. Usually I just like to consider one dice as the representative for the character, for the encounter, the opponent. So the darker red is this one is the health of the character. Remember, armor is rollable here. Armor is rolled. There is no set armor class. I changed it from a set armor value to an actual roll. So first strike, we would roll it against the DOS system, and because he's a rogue, maybe he's ambushing, we'll give him an extra D4. We simply just have to roll within the DOS, and red has a +2 modifier for dexterity, and I'm doing advantage, so I consider the top two highest +2, so that's 9, 10, 11. That's great. That's a standard success. We go first. Okay, he wants to attack. He wants to attack the opponent, and his attack die is a d6. Now, I brought in some white dice to distinguish my action dice from his attack dice. So I'm going to roll for dealing damage plus strength modifier, which red has none. So that is a 6, which means it's a miss. His attack misses. There is no modifier for it. Now, taking damage, we have to roll for defense. That is d6, 2d6 plus dexterity. So we're basically rolling for the enemies too. Okay, so that is going to be 10. That means we take damage. However, we roll the our armor die, which is a d4. I'm going to use the white one against the enemy's attack die. And we were able to block it completely. So basically, I'm sorry, no, we were only able to block one, or a 3 out of the 4, so we take 1 damage. That's how the armor works. Let's try it once more. So we are defending plus dexterity. So actually, I did notice a flaw with my system here. Taking damage. Basically, 4. Mhm. Okay, guys, so I wrote myself into a corner, but I did fix it here. I had to pause the video for a moment. But basically, I caught an issue with my rules. Defense is now combined with the attack roll. So basically, if it's 6 or less, that means I take damage. So each roll represents an entire turn on both sides, an entire set of turns. So let's try this again. Here's a standard. I'm going to attack first, and I have no strength bonus for red, so that's going to be a 5, 6, 7. That's a partial. Now, narratively, I have to figure out how partial has a setback. I can roll my attack die, which is a d6, and I'm going to use the white one. Maybe it's half damage, so 5, half damage of that is 2.5, rounded down or up, 2 or 3. That's how partial would be dictated. Now, if I just rolled a failure, which would be, 3, 2, a 5, I take damage. But however, I'm able to roll my armor die. So my armor die for red is going to be a d4, which I have right here. The enemy attack roll is going to be a d6. They roll, I roll my armor die, and I'm able to negate the entire roll. It's a 4 to 4, so I negate all damage. So even if you fail, you still have a chance to block the attack with your armor die. But that's only if you fail. Again, the partials depend on the narrative. You might leave yourself exposed. You might take a wound. You might not take a wound. You might drop something. Your weapon probably breaks. Your armor takes damage, etc. That is dependent on the narrative. But I feel that combining taking damage with dealing damage was the correct thing to do because I noticed I caught that and I'm like that doesn't make much sense. So that's why I'm doing this video. I want to play test this and see what works and what doesn't work. So let's try it one more time with a different character. Let's use Ellis as who's the fighter. So again, we'll stick with the D6 enemy. Ellis has a D8, which is far higher, a little higher. D8's right here, and his armor die is going to be a D6. Okay, so remember, we roll for everything. Only thing enemy rolls is their attack. Now, let's roll for it. Maybe I should change the title for dealing damage, because dealing damage does apply to everybody, I'm thinking. So if we consider dealing damage 2d6 plus strength against DOS, if successful, roll attack to deal damage. If miss, roll arm to negate incoming damage. Taking away this. Just figuring if I should change the name. First strike makes sense for to start. That is kind of an initiative. And then from there, you're basically just rolling dice to represent both sides attacking each other. Dealing damage, or perhaps making a move. I might stick with dealing of damage. That might change until the next episode, up to the next episode. But let's roll for it. So this is Ellis. He has a D8 attack and a D6 for armor. Okay, so that's a 7. So we'll roll our attack, and we'll consider half damage. 7, let's say that's 3.5. Let's say it's 3. So enemy is down to 3, and now we're going to roll again. So we removed our dice from the battlefield. This time was a, let's say I'm not considering the attack bonus. I'm still debating if I even use the attack bonus moving forward because I will not use it for the arm. I'm going to remove the attack bonus because I want to keep the ability modifier strictly for the actions. So doing that moving forward, I'm going to make it simple. more challenging, basically. So this is a fail, which means the enemy rolls. That's a 1, pretty pathetic. So we roll a die. We know for a fact we're going to block it. Okay, so that's a block. Let's do one more. Let's do another for perhaps Clovis. Clovis has a D6 attack die and a D4 block. Okay, so we're going to roll. Same enemy. That's a fail, which I prefer to see because I want to test it. His attack die is with his long spear. Actually, I apologize. We're going to block, so the enemy has to roll an attack. Okay, so there is some damage. We have to roll. We will take damage no matter what. Question is how much? 2. So I block 2, but I take the difference. So 3, 4, 5. That's 3 damage. My character Clovis will get reduced to 3 compared to its current 6. I think this makes more sense now that I'm seeing it. You roll essentially in action. You see how it goes. Let's say it was a 10. I roll the attack die, and then I deal 2 damage. Question is now, do I give the enemy an armor rating or an armor? I believe the armor is essentially the actual roll we're doing. For us, armor is a safety net to give the player a little kick, a little extra benefit, protection. Because again, I think this game is going to be very, very difficult. So if we take away armor from the character, it wouldn't make sense. We're allowed to roll our armor when it's a failed roll. But the enemies don't have armor. They have just straight HP or straight health. So they take 2 damage on this one, which would reduce them to 1. But essentially, their armor would be when we fail the roll, and then they can attack us. So it gives them an advantage. So that's the whole part of combat that I feel is the most difficult for me. However, I think the system is might work out. Combat's not always the concern. Not combat is not always the element of an RPG. It's just a factor. It's a mechanic. It's really the narrative and the story that matter. It's more so the narrative and the role play part of it that matters more. But combat, I believe, has to be here to make some sense. Because World of Dungeons doesn't have a combat section. It just kind of gives you the DOS, and you just have to kind of interpret it on your own. So I want to make this sheet to give me a combat section, though flawed. It provides a guide. It provides some rules to make combat make sense and to some extent. So that's it for combat. Spell casting would be the same. The spell would do some kind of effect like in Maze Rats. You create the effect you create the spell yourself. I might can probably put here use Maze Rats to create spells, or I do tables in the back. I'm not too sure. Or it's up to the GM, or if you solo play, you make it up yourself. Short rest heals is pretty self-explanatory. Everything else makes sense. But spellcasting is another challenge, though I think combat's far more challenging. But that's really it for the video, guys. I just wanted to show you my engine and how I'm still dealing with the combat. And I believe I will have an updated print copy during my session so I can kind of make notes on it to see what I can change. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.